All right, hi everyone. This is Group 1 Eastern's project presentation for reduction of social media use. I'm Mallory.
I'm Janiqua.
I am Yanni Santana.
I'm Chanel.
And I'm Elizabeth Williams.
Perfect. All right, Elizabeth, if you want to go ahead and kick us off with our abstract.
We presented the abstract for our project, and operation of social media is increasing. According to the Global Web Index, the use of social media has increased from 136 minutes per day in 2017 to 146 minutes in 2021. The overuse of social media poses a significant challenge to an individual's mental health, personal relationships, and social dynamics, necessitating comprehensive understanding and effective interventions to decrease its adverse effects. For this replication, all participants acknowledge that social media usage interferes with their productivity. For this replication study, we implemented application limits within social media applications to decrease problematic social media use per individual. Each participant also chose alternative activities to engage in.
Perfect. So we'll dive right into our literature review. So social media use continues to increase. In 2024, there were 207 million users 18 and over that were using social media, which is approximately 77.4% of the population at that age. Social media can include a variety of platforms and may be beneficial. If there's too much use, can be problematic and can interfere with one's daily life. Some different social media platforms that it can include is YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and so on. Some benefits include its learning capabilities, access to communicate with others, and the ability to disperse information. Several studies have found a positive correlation between overuse of social media use and depression. Some examples include the study conducted by Hand and Shuang, where they found if you showed signs of depression, you might also be addicted to social media. Another study conducted by Zvaniska, where it found if you were addicted to social media, it actually affected your job performance. And then another study conducted by Bruni, where they found that social media addiction can affect your sleep. So what is social media addiction? This has not officially been defined by the DSM-5. Griffiths and Stamkowski attempted to define by saying it should include 6 criteria, including conflict, withdrawal, salience, tolerance, relapse, and mood modification. We chose to also utilize a modification of the Internet Addiction Test, which is found to be effective in showing that you're addicted to the internet. This test has also discovered a positive correlation between salience and excessive use, of which meets 2 of the criteria from up above, which shows that there could be a positive correlation between social media and being addicted. Within this, we also chose the selection of alternative activities. It allows participants to determine other activities to engage in outside of social media. Studies have found that when effective reinforcers are chosen outside of addiction, that they're more likely to engage in those activities, such as the study conducted by Higgins. We also chose to include utilization of application limits. Application limits allows the participant to set their desired duration across all social media applications or for specific social media applications. And then once their daily limit has been reached, it will send a notification that they have hit their limit. Another study found that application limits tend to be effective for their participants, as users were able to reduce their phone use by 6% per day and their Facebook use by 33.2%. So we're hoping to use the same methodology within our own experiment. So let's discuss our purpose of the study. So the goal of our study is to assess the application limit intervention to reduce the duration of social media use for graduate level college students who self-reported problematic levels of use. We wanted to determine, will the use of application limits for social media applications reduce the duration of social media use with graduate level college students? We were also hoping to find, will participants self-report that they engage in alternative activities throughout the study? And will their pre and post intervention social media addiction scores change? And that wraps up our literature review. So I'll kick it back over to Elizabeth.
All right, I'll be discussing the various sections of the methods portion of our project. So we first start off with participants. To replicate this study, there's a total of 5 graduate level students, all females, between the ages of 29, through 41. The ethnic composition of the group consisted of 3 African-American females, 1 Hispanic, 1 Caucasian. All participants are current graduate level students attending Ball State University and are enrolled in course SPCE 611-817, Advanced Behavior Analysis. For the settings portion of our project, all recorded sessions took place in the privacy and location of the participants' dwelling. This included homes, workplaces, or other locations. All participants are located in the US Eastern Time Zone. Sessions occurred 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. When it was necessary, group meetings were used via Zoom on predetermined Thursdays at 7 p.m. The methods, materials. For data collection purposes, we use our Apple iPhone devices. Each participant device had access to calls, the internet, various applications, games, text, and screen time setting option that's pre-programmed on Apple devices. The screen time feature was utilized to track all app and website activities, including phone pickups and notifications. For the purpose of our project, we have defined social media as a collection of online platforms and websites that enable individuals and organizations to create, share, and have interactions through digital communication and creating content to connect with different communities while networking. Some examples of social media will include Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat. Some non-examples are Amazon, iTunes, internet search engines, for instance, Google. The primary dependent variable for our replication study is the duration of time each participant used or accessed social media via their iPhones. To determine the duration spent on social media sites, the amount of minutes spent on each social media platform was calculated daily utilizing the screen time feature. This was the only measurement tool used throughout this replication process. The experimental design. Social media use reduction research replication followed a multiple baseline design. Participants were randomly assigned to a group based on their time zones as required by the course, SPC 611-817, Advanced Applied Behavior Analysis online course at Ball State. The 5 participants were divided into 2 groups. The first group contained 2 participants and the other group 3 participants. This order was assigned and agreed upon by all participants at random. Each participant agreed to follow all ethical guidelines, including a group project protocol and group behavioral contract necessary to replicate the study conducted by Stinson L. and Darrelly J. 2022. That has been signed and agreed upon by all participants. This experimental design allows the researchers and participants to investigate if problematic social media exists, and if so, what measures of an intervention could be followed to reduce problematic social media usage. The procedure. Enrollment. To have been able to participate in this replication study, all participants were attendees and enrolled at Ball State. The participants were enrolled into this group based on their time zones. All participants are in the Eastern United States time zone. Each participant was able to independently select a topic of replication study from a group of 7 predetermined options provided by Dr. Winterberg, who's the professor. The 5 participants were then divided into 2 groups. The first group contained 2 participants, the other group contained 3 participants. This order was assigned and agreed upon at random by all participants. During the baseline phase, participants submitted daily screenshots for 5 days of their social media use in the first group. After the 5 days had occurred, the first group began their intervention. In order to measure this data efficiently, all participants utilized their iPhone's screen time application. This ensured a 24-hour period of social media use was recorded. For group run, for the whole group, our baseline data began on January 29th and ended on February 2nd. For group 2, we continued to take baseline data until groups 1 intervention data showed a stable decrease in social media use, and then we began intervention. After baseline had been completed, the group hosted a meeting via Zoom to decide each participant's reduction goal. Intervention began on February 5th for group run. The group's intervention began once we saw a stable decrease in the intervention for group 1. Data collection occurred each week, Monday through Friday, for the entirety of the experiment. The participants also decided to engage in alternative activities to reduce their social media use. Some examples of those activities include reading, exercising, and schoolwork. Next, each participant set their own application time limit for social media applications. With this setting, it sends notifications to your phone to let you know when you've hit your maximum time allotted for the day. The allowable time on the application was based on the baseline data and each participant's reduction goal. The participants choose to either set their duration goal for one social media application or set it across all social media applications. With these notifications, it notified the participant that they've reached their time limit, and then they choose to ignore the notification or close out the application. IOA data. So each participant collected inter-observer agreement data, known as IOA, for a total of 3 weeks throughout the experiment, so that IOA data could be taken for 33.33% of the experiment. The 3 weeks that IOA data was collected were January 29th through February 2nd, February 19th to February 23rd, and March 11th through March 15th. Each participant during the original Zoom meetings agreed to send in screenshots from their personal iPhone of their social media usage every 24 hours at 6:30 a.m. The 5 participants were divided into 2 subgroups. The first group consisted of Chanel and Mallory, which was group 1, and then group 2 consisted of 3 individuals, myself, Janiqua, and Yenny. Each participant sent screenshots to their group members, collected data of their own usage, and then that of their group members to ensure accurate measurement. The group members checked each member's data sheet at the end of each IOA period. With the data collected, we use the following methods of creating 2 groups in order to keep an efficient log of our social media usage. An example log is shown in figure 1 of how IOA data was collected. Each participant logged their own timeframes, and this data was then cross-checked by one of their members. Mallory input her data, and Chanel verified Mallory's data was correct, and vice versa. In group 2, Janiqua cross-checked my data, Yenny cross-checked Janiqua's data, and then I cross-checked Yenny's data with each input. Each participant has access to this data via a shared Google Drive with the screenshots that were submitted every morning during the baseline period. Iowa data remained at 100% for all participants of the entirety of this experiment. This here is figure 1 that shows how we utilized to collect Iowa data. Treatment integrity. So prior to collecting baseline data, all participants were given instructions on how to turn screen time settings on their phone. In order to verify that each individual had screen time settings prior to start their experiment, a screenshot was sent to the group chat that was created. Feedback was given to members of the group until all of the participants agreed. Each participant started taking daily screenshots from January 29th to February 2nd in order to begin baseline data collection. Screenshots were taken at 6:30 a.m. each day and only include daily social media usage. This information was submitted to a group chat created for the purpose of this project and was how the participants communicated their daily screen time throughout their experiment. In order to ensure the participants kept their social media screen time on, when cross-checking the daily screenshots for our groups, the participants ensured that the previous day's screen time was still turned on. The following weeks, the participants continued to use this method to collect data, and group members were responsible for cross-examining each group member for accuracy. Goals for social media daily usage were determined following baseline collection on February 3rd for group 1 and following baseline collection on February 10th for group 2. The participants used a log to input the data at the end of each 5-day period each week for comparison. As described in the intervention section, each participant set their own application time limit once the intervention phase began for each group. In order to check fidelity, each participant uploaded a screenshot to the group chat to ensure that all the participants had their settings on accurately for each social media app. This was checked daily to ensure that these settings remained on for the entirety of the experiment through the cross-checking of the daily screenshots that were sent to each group member. This is shown in figure 2. Treatment integrity remained at 100% for all participants for the entirety of the treatment. And this is our figure 2. And now we will pass it on over to Chanel for our results.
Chanel, you're still muted.
Okay, I will be doing the results section of the for the experiment. Now, the first table here, table 1, is showing the demographic information and goals of the participants, their name, ages, and their gender. Participants' ages are 29 to 41, as was mentioned earlier. We're all female, and the social media goals set for the participants. The social media goals were set after the baseline data were collected. Each participant goal of the social media use are displayed in the table. Now for the graph section. Here. Yes, so the graph is showing the daily duration of social media use for all participants of the group via smartphone. The baseline conditions were varied across for all participants, which result in a varying daily duration of social media use for participants. The group mean for the daily duration is 232.52 minutes per day for baseline condition. When the intervention was implemented, Daily duration decreased to at or below participants' goal level, and the group's mean of daily social media use equal to 95.919 minutes per day. We choose not to implement a withdrawal phase because there is no noticeable overlap of the data. For the first two participants, Mallory and Chanel, you could see that week one, we implemented the baseline phase. 1 week of baseline were collected, and the baseline were stable, which signaled the go-ahead for the second group, Elizabeth, Janiqua, and Yanni, to start their intervention stage. In Chanel's data, you can see that the data showed an increasing trend, which started about 68 minutes. Then it dropped down to a high, then it jumped to a high about 296 minutes. After the intervention was introduced, you can see that the data point decreased about 90 minutes and remained consistent throughout the intervention. In Mallory's data, you see a similar result where the baseline data show a high level and in the baseline phase, and then at the intervention, you can see the similar results where the data dropped. The broken lines is used to indicate that a start of the intervention and the end of the baseline. Now, the second group's data, Janiqua, Elizabeth, and Yenny, they have 2 weeks of baseline data collected. Yet you can see the similar pattern of the results here where the baseline are higher and the intervention stage after the dotted lines, you see that the intervention, where the intervention was implemented, that the data usage decrease in all participants. So it is safe to say that the intervention was successful at reducing problematic social media use. We use the multiple baseline data graph to display our data. Now in table 2, we have the social media addiction test, pre and post test score. So for the results is a questionnaire that we use for 20 statements. After reading each statement carefully, participants based upon a 5-point Likert scale where they select up responses from 0 to 5. Another copy of the survey is shown at the end of the research. Now displaying the Likert scale, pre and post test, the internet addiction test among participants, there is a decrease in the internet addiction test scores among participants. Participant 3 and 4 and 5 between pre and post test. Now participant 1 and 2, Elizabeth and Janiqua, remain the same. Now for the pre-intervention scores were both below 30, which is considered a normal level of social media use. So their post-intervention score remained at a normal level. For participants 3 and 4, displayed a moderate internet addiction usage at pre-intervention score, which is 53 and 60. Their score decreased to a normal level post-intervention, which score 20 to 22. Participant 5 was in the normal category of the internet addiction test, pre-test. Her score decreased even lower after the intervention. No participant score were in the range of severe addiction. And table 3, the behavior allocation survey, we have the positive score indicated that the data was they spend more time doing alternative activities and less time on social media. Now for all participants completed the survey before and after the intervention. Now table 3 depicted the results of the behavior application survey for all participants. Participants selected alternative activities that they engaged in during the intervention. The behavior allocation survey was conducted 2 days prior to the intervention. The average of the data for pre-social media use was calculated by adding the 2 days score and dividing by the number 2. The same was done for the pre-selected alternative activity. Only one post-intervention behavior allocation survey was conducted, so the data is as presented. In the post-intervention phase, social media use showed a decrease in all participants. Most participants reported spending more time with family members, doing household chores, doing school-related activities, and spending time doing their jobs. A positive score means that the participants spend more time doing alternative activity and less time on social media. Okay, I'll pass it on to Janiqua.
I'll be talking about the limitations on this experiment. The limitation in an experiment can comprehend several factors that might impact the validity and generalization of the results. Specific limitations for this experiment include external factors like life events that distract the participants or limited their ability to comply with their preset goal, internal factors like the desire to continue in social media and ignore the preset limit on their electronics or for lack of self-control, and self-reporting. Even though a limit was preset on the phone settings, participants might have not provided accurate reports. Um, we also looked at ethical concerns. Some ethical concerns might arise since participants were at home and could have used other dispositives while reporting low usage. Also, even though screenshots for social media usage was submitted each day, participants might have presented another person's screenshots. The duration of the experiment also was short and might not have a long-term impact on social media high utilization or addiction. Alternative behaviors, we did not report the amount of time in the replacement behaviors except in pre-intervention and post-intervention. So we were unable to assess if in fact social media was replaced by these behaviors. This poses a limitation since we cannot determine whether social media usage was replaced with any of the pre-selected alternative behaviors. When replicating this study, our group decided to omit tracking screen time on our computers. This was due to the lack of everyone having the same computer device, and therefore not all participants could participate in this portion of the study. There were limitations in the ability to purchase the screen time tracking for PC computers for the entirety of the group. And we also chose to omit the compensation portion of the experiment due to the lack of funds available.
All right. So, in conclusion, social media is a significant part of daily life with both positive and negative effects. Studies suggest negative effects, but our research couldn't definitely link the social media use to intervention success. Participants showed reduced internet addiction test scores during the intervention, hinting at an openness to help. Also, while during the internet addiction test, we can also see that our each participant uh, engaged in alternative activities and also stuck to their app usage restriction, which was a key component to this approach. Participants also like challenges with age, perceived social media value, limited screen time, and technical issues affected our study. Other factors like personal health concerns, emergencies, and workplace social media use influence results. Issues like limited Wi-Fi access, work-related social media use, and geographic constraints may have impacted findings. These elements could have influenced our intervention implementation and overall results of the study. So 5 out of 5 participants saw success in decreasing daily social media usage. And our results also align with the study that we were replicating as well. So this study demonstrates practical and meaningful social validity in reducing media consumption.
Great. And then these are our references that we used and our photo references. And that wraps up our presentation. Thanks, everyone.